What's up, y'all? Thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab. My name is Jason Littrell, and today I want to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart. It is project management. In case we haven't met, I am a systems and process nerd because I firmly believe in my bones that everything that we do is a process or a result of a decision tree or a system, and that if you follow a process or system that is constantly being refined, that you will have predictable results and things will predictably happen. And if you design a system that has a positive endpoint or has a positive goal, then you can predictably have positive things happen. So I'm into project management. In fact, I got so into project management recently that I decided to build a second brain for myself inside of a project management software called Nifty. Now, you could use Nifty, you could use Airtable, you could use ClickUp, you could use Trello, whatever it is. Some people even do this on Google Sheets. It's just not as dynamic as I need it for Google Sheets. It's just kind of two-dimensional. So what I use is this program called Nifty. I got on AppSumo like 5 years ago. It's one of those ones it's one of those pieces of software that is like constantly improved. But the payload of this video is that you're going to see how I dump my brain out constantly and organize my thoughts into just doing the things that are actually important, the things that just move the needle, whether you're opening up a bar, whether you are starting a business, if you're installing a draft system, which I'm going to show you exactly how I'm installing a draft system right now, and then putting that into the context of everything else that you have going on in your life, including your short-term and your long-term goals. Now, I have a ton of big, lofty, ambitious goals. I'm 44 years old now, and by 2038, I'll be 56 years old. My son will be 18 years old, and I'll have a little bit more time on my hands. So I want to be healthy to enjoy that. And also, I'm not like he's 6 years old now, so I'm not trying to wait 12 years to be happy. So I have to prioritize the things that I do with work. And the things that I do with my personal life to get me to where I want to be professionally, and also where I want to be personally, spiritually, with my relationships and all that stuff. And so if you have all that stuff kind of buzzing around your head it feels like a beehive all the time. So whenever I have an idea, a thought, a concept, whatever, I plug it into the right place. And what that does is it helps me kind of understand where that idea comes into the larger context of the projects that I'm working on and the goals that I have. And it allows me to say, hey, wait a second, that's not important. I shouldn't sink an hour or even a whole day into doing that because it's just not important. It doesn't line up with all the other stuff. So I tend to go where the novelty is. I like the dopamine hit of working on a new idea. If you've been following me for any length of time, then you know that I'm always going for the new thing. I'm always going for the shiny object, and it's hurt me professionally. But I've opened up bars before. I've worked on big projects, big events. And I wish that I was more committed to this kind of stuff before, because it would have allowed me to have the balance that I'm looking for. A couple primary rules for me that kind of were the genesis of having this level of organization is that I don't drink at all anymore. I don't drink alcohol anymore because it's a distraction and it's too much. And so I realized that I could either have the things that I wanted, or I could have this kind of dopamine hit / cycle of I'm not as productive as I could be. I didn't do this because I did that. And so I'm just ruthlessly eliminating distractions, and that's giving me plenty of headspace to get to where I want to go. So if you're watching this on YouTube, cool. Then I'm going to show you kind of what the system looks like. This is a software called Nifty. It's a desktop app, but you can get it on a web app. There's also if this didn't have an iPhone or an Android app, I wouldn't use it. I'm an Android guy. I'm the blue bubble. You're welcome. But so I really first of all, my business is reliant 100% on my clients. And so I had to make sure that my clients were represented. And anytime I have a conversation with my clients about anything, it's always going to be documented. And I've actually even started tracking my time so I can see exactly where my time goes. A lot of times, I don't know if, when I was opening bars, when I was super busy, I would always be like, I just worked 12, 15 hours today, and I cannot tell you what I accomplished. So there is gratification. There's like kind of a dopamine hit for actually seeing what you've accomplished in a bar or in on a job, and then also, as a consultant, like you want to be able to demonstrate that and also justify your time. And so all my clients are represented here. This isn't all of them, but all of them are, all of the things I'm working on. These are the businesses that I own right here. These are the partnerships that I've made with people. So I have an ownership stake in these businesses. This is my personal life right here. So this is like the relationships that I want to cultivate. These are ideas that I have. These are some memories that I have. I've organized it. So anytime like a meaningful thought comes into my head, rather than like whether it's positive or negative, like it cannot live rent free in here. When I need to focus on the things that I want to do. And so like this has my kind of macro plan. So let's just go into a client just so you can kind of, so I can give you a couple of examples here. This is Fable Cocktail Bar. This is one of my clients. They're a brilliant South African cocktail bar. But this is like everything. So like when I first sign up a client, I have like this template that has exhaustive lists of all the onboarding. Now, if you are a bar consultant or if you're like an ambitious bar owner, then this should be all the different individual steps that you have to opening up a bar. Now, this is my company. I serve my client. My job is to take things off of their plate. So you'll notice that I'm assigned to most of these tasks. But if you're a manager or a GM or an owner of a bar or restaurant, then you want to be able to dish these tasks off and create this accountability for the people that are working for you to make sure that you are not only working on the right things, which I think is arguably more important than productivity, but also that you're able to identify roadblocks in case those things are not being finished. And so you want to understand what's going on, and then in case adjustments need to be made with personnel or with responsibilities or whatever, then you have like a documented thing saying that this is what we needed to happen, this is what happened, this is what didn't happen, and this is why. And so like I would say, like especially if you're on a timeline, which every bar is, then you're like, this is the timeline that this needs to happen. And if you really wanted to get wild, what we've done before is we've done a Gantt view, which is where you can see how things are progressing over time. And this is where we have task dependencies and stuff like that. So these are all the onboarding stuffs that I have for my clients. We just keep track of who's doing what we're missing, what we need. And then the system constantly nudges us to do the right thing in order, for what we need to, for when and how it needs to happen. So this is like, if you're still here, then this is something that you're probably struggling to implement, but it's so very important. And the pushback that I get with this is like, this is like 90% for me. Like this is 90% so that I am delivering an exceptional product for my clients. So nothing's falling through the cracks. Notice that down here, this is my time tracker for how much time I'm spending making these kind of videos and making content. But if you are like a lot of times that people struggle with adoption with this stuff, but like if I don't own bars anymore, but if I did, I would be like, this is the requirement. And when I did own a bar, we had a Trello board. And so like I was like, hey, if you want to keep track of the things that you're committed to, the things that are in your scope of work, the work that you're supposed to be doing, then you need to adopt the system. But here's the caveat, is that I am adopting this system and I am keeping track of what you said you're going to do, what you're responsible for, and how that is in priority. So like, notice these things, like we can move them in order of priority. We can change them. I can assign them to different people. Like these are different clients. Like my clients have complete visibility on this, and we have a chat feature that this client is using, WhatsApp, but there's an embedded chat feature in this particular software. And I can say, this is like, I can track the history of this task, and assign it to different people. So, and what I do is I end up making comments on that task. And then you can also chat on that task, so that you can see exactly what's happened with that individual task. You can set due dates, you can set dependencies, like as in this can't happen until that happens. You put them on lists so you can kind of categorize them into like different elements. And it's like, it's just, story points are like, we don't use this too much, but story points are like basically how much time you think you're going to estimate that it will take somebody to accomplish a task. So like, let's say that one story point is an hour, and you say that, all right, well, I would like you to clean the draft lines, and that's a 6-hour job. That would establish story points. And so what you can do is you can track with the reporting feature on most of these softwares, how long somebody, like what the estimated workload is going to be for that particular person. And then adjust their workload accordingly, so that they're not being overburdened, so that they can actually focus on finishing tasks rather than finishing important tasks, rather than just being constantly running around. And so, like, I'll just give you an example of what we do with this is a restaurant that is being built for scale. I would not be surprised to see 30 of these in the next 2 or 3 years. So this is a stretch pizza restaurant. It's like the founder is a celebrity chef. And so this is the work that, and the way that we organize this, the way that I'm organizing my work with this is like, what is the urgent and important thing that needs to happen? This is called the Eisenhower Matrix. This is how President Dwight Eisenhower made choices and made decisions. He's like, is this important, or is this urgent and important? Then that means that it's something that he does, that he would do. Is it important but not urgent? Then it's something that you schedule in the calendar. And so I have this integrated with my calendar of like all these things. Like if I put dates on these, if I put a date on these assignments, it would actually appear in my calendar, and I could drag them around and say like, this is going to be a 15-minute job, and then this is when I'm going to do it. And so like when somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I would like, the only question is this urgent? If not, then send me an email or send me a text message, and then I'll put it into my thing. But it's not like right now I'm scheduled to complete this task, and I cannot overstate the value of having that kind of ruthless prioritization, because ultimately at the end of the day, we end up doing so much stuff that just doesn't matter, that just does not matter. And so, this kind of goes into a bigger philosophy of scheduling regular times to do things that are maybe boring, but are very important. The things that you just need to do that you have to do. So you schedule them and you put them in your calendar, and you do not allow anybody to interrupt that. You do not allow anybody to get in the way of that. And if you absolutely have to, if somebody's giving birth on your bar floor, then you move that calendar date, that scheduled time, but you do not delete it, because we oftentimes sacrifice the urgent or the important for the urgent. And so just because it's urgent does not mean it's necessarily going to make your business a 20-year business. And so what we end up doing is thousands of tasks that just don't matter. And so that's kind of what I try to avoid. And it's like, just since implementing this, especially in my personal life, I've just been able, like, this is like also known as kind of like a second brain or a brain dump. I have a place to get rid of all the stuff in my mind. I have a place to get rid of all this stuff so that I just don't have to think about it. And then when I decide if it's a good idea, I can measure it against the other things in that category, as in, is this a good idea or not? And then if it is a good idea, if I'm still white hot about it, then I'll schedule time to build it, but not at the expense of the things that are urgent and important. And then the second priority is the things that are important that are in my calendar. And then if I'm still excited about it, then it goes into my thing. But I'm not going to let somebody just like drag me over here. Like for me, content is important. And I love talking about my stuff, but before I did not have the mental bandwidth to be able to do this, to sit down here and do it, because I was constantly so once I started tracking my time, started tracking my tasks, and just being very disciplined about the stuff that I put into my orbit, into my like work orbit, because you and I know, like, the task list will never be over. It will never be over. But if you allowed people to pull you away from the things that are actually important, that are actually going to move the needle in your business, then you are doomed You are doomed. I feel very passionately about this. But okay, that's all I got for you today. If you need help with this stuff, like I'm absolutely 100% committed to helping you with this because we have a miserable failure rate, and it doesn't have to be like that. There's like the bars that are winning right now are very predictable. The bars that have been around for 20 years are very predictable. They adapt, and they focus on product, service, and they get people to come back more than one time. That's it. That's the entire ball game, is turning one guest into 1.1 guests. That's it. All right. This has been the Hospitality Strategy Lab. I'm Jason Littrell, and I will see you next time. Thank you.